Marriages die slowly, over time, in predictable stages. That's a direct quote from today's guest, an author on what to do when you want to end your marriage. Today, we're going to look at the stages and roles in a marriage's decline, what you can do to regain your sparkle, and a roadmap to finding your way through one of the most chaotic and challenging times of your adult life. Trust me, you guys, you do not want to miss this episode. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica, and today I have Dr. Becky Whetstone with me. She is the author of I Think I Want Out, a fantastic book we're going to explore today. But welcome, Becky. So excited to chat with you.
Eric, I'm so excited. And how could I not love the title of your podcast? Seriously. Is that not the best?
Thank you.
And I know about 3 men that probably think I fall into that category.
Right? It's so funny. It's a love-hate. Either women are like, hell yes. And men always laugh. They always tell me they got at least a few they can send over. And then sometimes women are like, but I'm not crazy. I'm like, well, we're all a little crazy in the midst of the chaos of a marriage crisis.
I think we're all a little crazy. I really do think we are. I know one thing. Everybody I know is weird and unusual and quirky and flawed and all of those things. So,
right. Yeah. We just want to be crazy on the good way, right? Like love, abundance, acceptance. We don't want to slash tires. We don't want to key cars. That's a bad crazy. We don't advocate for that. We want the rest of it.
Right. No criminal crazy.
No criminal crazy. Well, you guys, I was super excited. I posted actually yesterday on my story. So it's been a few weeks from when I posted that to today when the episode actually airs. But I have been in love with this book. I cannot tell you. I've been telling everybody about it. You guys, it's called I Think I Want Out. What to do when one of you wants to end your marriage. And, read books all the time. Yes, there are tons and tons of great books out there. But what I loved about this was it is laid out so well, so clear. And there were a few key pieces that really sold me to be such a huge proponent. I'm buying copies. I'm sending it to people that I know are in the middle of their own marriage crisis. So that is what we're going to explore today to help you guys figure it out, especially when you're still in the unknown, And Becky, for you to know, a lot of the listeners are either figuring it out. So they're either unhappily married or separated. And then we've got a bunch of them that are, okay, great, I'm divorced, but I'm trying to find my way through. And even if you're divorced, I loved it because I looked at it and was like, oh yeah, I remember that phase. Oh, I would have done this a little bit differently. Or you learn, you're always learning around it. So when did you publish this book? How long has it been out?
It's been out since February 4th, I believe. February 4th. It's very new. It's
very hot new find. This is absolutely going to be a top read for everybody because so often people are like, well, what do I need to do? How do I figure this out? And that's where one of the pieces that I loved right off the gate was that you started talking about it is a crisis. This is a marriage crisis. This is not just a thing. We need to look at it like it's a crisis to be able to get through it.
Marriage crisis is a phenomenon, like the phenomenon of the stages of grief. And it's something that happens. And the crazy thing about it is we can predict how people are going to behave in this phenomenon. And it's absolutely universal. And so most people that go through a divorce with no knowledge or just a marriage crisis, marriage on the brink, they don't know what's going on. They're extremely confused. And so I knew that there was a need to explain this phenomenon to people so they will know that, okay, this is what's happening and this is how it's going to play out. And there is some free will involved in this too, whereas you can control certain things about the phenomenon that might give you a better chance at whatever outcome you're looking for. Like if you want to save your marriage, there's things you can do to increase that possibility. And if you want a divorce, then there's ways to do that where you don't rip each other apart. So I'm all about taking the nasty out of everything in relationships, of course, and especially divorce. And I'm very interested also in the post divorce dynamics of co parenting, blended families, and healing, and dadgummit, just not moving on to someone else too soon.
Right? And it is so important because the reality is that people are still getting divorced. It's still happening. I loved the 5 stages. I love the 5 phases of grief because so much of divorce is processing grief, but knowing that there are these 5 phases, knowing that they do go in order, the only difference is how long you stay in each one, means that no matter where you are in the process, you can go back and look at it. And even now, post divorce, now 4 years into a relationship, oh, we never want to let it get to that level. We're hitting this stage or whatever it is, and being able to reach out and get help sooner than later can help save a lot of people from going through this painful restart that is beautiful on the other side, but Lord, does it suck when you're in the middle of it.
It's so awful. It's a absolute terrible, terrible experience for everyone. Even if you really want out of your marriage, it's a terrible experience. I kind of want to have 3 or 4 different versions of this book with different titles, because the title says, I think I want out, what to do, and one of you wants to end your marriage. But it's also beneficial to couples who are married that want to stave off a marriage crisis, that don't want to have one in the future. And so I'm telling people in the first part of the book how to keep an eye on what's going on in their marriage and monitor it like you do your health, like the signs and symptoms of cancer. You will know by reading my book the signs and symptoms of a dying marriage so that you can nip it early before things have gotten really bad.
Yeah. And that was one of the other key pieces, the self-care. But I'm sure the listeners are like, but what are the 5 phases? Okay. So you guys, the 5 stages of marriage deterioration. Do you want to walk us through, or should I read you each one?
You don't need to read them. I mean, I know them by heart for sure. Everybody, listen, I went through a marriage crisis in 92 and 93. That's why I wrote the book. And I tell the story in the first part of the book about how we went to a marriage therapist, and our marriage therapist said, well, if you don't want to work on the marriage, I can't help you. He sent us away and we managed it ourselves, which was an absolute, what kind of show. It was a disaster, and I have so many regrets about that. So maybe 10 years later, I went to grad school, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to study marriage and family therapy. And man, if I get any research opportunities, I want to find out if there was anything that could have been done, right? And so, first of all, I found out that they don't teach us anything about it in marriage and family therapy school. They don't teach us one thing about it. And second of all, you have to take a special interest in it. So when I got my time to research my dissertation, I went to the library a lot. I'm digging up information, and I found these dadgum 5 stages of a dying marriage. And literally my head blew off. I was like, why isn't this information out there? Why doesn't every person know what the 5 stages of a deteriorating marriage are, so they can know that they're in a process? Because what happens is you go through this process, everyone, and you don't realize it. Okay. So the first stage is called disillusionment. That's when you're going along in your marriage and you go, uh-oh, I think I'm unhappy. Wow. I know marriages have ups and downs. And so I'm just going to see how this goes and see if it's serious or goes away. You hit stage 2 called erosion, when you go, oh no, this isn't going away. In fact, it's worse, and it's serious and could lead to divorce. But oh my God, I don't want a divorce because of all the reasons we don't want a divorce: money, kids, family, religion, blah, blah, blah. So the person just keeps plowing through. Now, what I tell people in the book, and try to preach it everywhere I go, is when you hit stage 2 and say, no, this is serious, it's not going away, it could lead to divorce. That's when you have to tell your partner. That's when you have to ask them to go to marriage therapy, right there. Okay, that's it. Now, if you don't do that, then you're going to go down to stage 3, where you're thinking about your unhappiness more and more. This is called detachment. And let's just say you're thinking about it more and it's making you more and more miserable. It's weighing on you more. And you go, man, I am so unhappy in this marriage, but I have decided I'm not going to divorce. So therefore, I'm going to find a contingency plan, which is, hey, if I go back to school or start a new hobby or start working out or get a new group of friends or something like that, and that will take me away from my spouse, I can spend time away from them and cope and stay reasonably happy as long as I'm away from them. So now you notice people starting new activities. Some people even start affairs at this point. If I just have an affair, get some affection and sex from somebody, then I can hang on to this marriage. But what they don't realize is when they're in stage 3, detachment, it's guaranteed you will hit stage 4. We just don't know what day, what time, what moment, what situation is going to cause it. Stage 4 is the straw that breaks the camel's back. If you're ever hanging out with a bunch of friends who've been divorced, it's always interesting to ask everyone there, what was the straw that broke the camel's back in your marriage? That if these were the deciders, the ones who wanted out, they will be able to tell you exactly the moment and the time and what their spouse did when they got absolute clarity that said, you know what? I can't be with a person that would say or do or not do what this person just did. And you get this clarity. And then not very long after that, usually, we announce to our spouse what my title of my book says. I think I want out. I think I'm thinking about leaving. I think I want a divorce. And if that happens, then the marriage crisis phenomenon will begin at that moment. And this is where things get really dicey and have to be handled in a certain way because both people are going to freak out. Their nervous systems are going to activate. Their IQ is going to drop by 20 points. They're going to act nuts. Yeah. And so that's where picture me then walking in the room going, no, let's slow this puppy down. We're not in a hurry. Let's just get you calmed down. And that's our first order of business, is getting people calm so we can see what we're working with.
Yeah. Because by the time you get to that point, it's usually not calm anymore. It's usually pretty up there. I even remember, so in my instance, he was done, but he didn't say anything, right? He's super avoidant of the conflict. So he was done, started his affairs, started whatever else, but was still showing up. But it was literally, you guys, he said, you no longer respected my opinion, but it's when I chose the paint color of the basement and I chose to get a dog, right? Like he didn't want to do these things, or he wanted something else, like the paint color in the basement. He really wanted it a different color. I picked a very neutral, whatever. It can be the littlest thing, but then he was done. And unfortunately, because so many therapists are not trained in this, even when they are a couples therapist, the first therapist we went to sent us out with activities to go do. Oh, you should go talk through all your problems. Oh, you should leave here and tell him why you're so upset. And he just has to say, okay, I understand that. Well, he's already leaning out. Like he was done. There was no willingness to try and work through it, but just continue to avoid, which those two labels, the decider and the leaning in partner, were also really big key takeaways for me from your book. So let's talk a little bit about those two roles, because that really leads you down what you need to do or not do to be able to get to a calm state to figure out what the options are.
Well, it sounds to me like your husband reached stage 5 or 5th stage, which is death of the marriage. And that one I came up with in my own research because my dissertation was on how people decide to divorce. And I found 5 patterns in all the people that I interviewed they were all deciders, how they decided to divorce. And death of the marriage was I am absolutely the marriage part one at least is absolutely over. And I am never going to go back to the status quo. And if our marriage is to be saved, it will have to be completely different. So that's stage 5, everybody. Now, and so there is a leaning in partner and there's a decider. And what happens is normally, I think as I describe it in the book, let's say the leaning in partner sitting on the couch drinking a cup of tea and life, they're looking at their iPad or whatever, and their spouse, the decider, comes in the room and says, "I'm very unhappy. I think I want a divorce," or something like that. And in that moment, everything changes, and the leaning in partner typically rises up from the depths of hell and complacency and says, "Hell no." And they start fighting to get the decider back. Okay. So they realize somehow, some way, by talking in those early moments, that the decider is dead serious. This isn't just a silly little spat. This person has mustered up some courage to come in and know that they know when they say this that it's going to ignite a major situation, right? So when the leaning in partner decides, no, this is serious, I think they're going to divorce me, then they start doing this ardent pursuit. I don't know, did you repaint your room? And
I did a lot of I did a lot of things. I'll spill the beans on what I did after, but yeah, the leaning in partner does everything. They're ready.
would go and they try, like, oh, now I'm going to make sure we have a date night once a week. Now I'm going to make sure we have plenty of sex. Now I'm going to make sure I tell you how much I appreciate you every day, on and on and on and on and on. And the problem is that the decider is got their back kind of turned toward the marriage. And this love pursuit, love bombing thing is a huge turnoff for the decider. And so the more you chase after them, the more you try to woo them and be on your best behavior and go, oh, look, I've lost 15 pounds and I've read 55 self-help books and listened to 350 podcasts and I'm a new person now. All of that stuff grosses them out. It just disgusts them because they're thinking to themselves, why did I have to go through this to get your attention? Why wasn't asking you for years enough? But some spouses honestly don't give you a heads up that they're struggling. Some never let their spouses know. But most people tell their spouse, I'm struggling in the marriage. I'm unhappy. I need more physical touch. And then they do it for 2 days and they stop, right? Which, if the decider loses hope that the leaning in partner is going to change prior to the marriage crisis, then there's going to be that come to Jesus moment where they just say, I'm done. Now, typically, the decider is in the flight mode of the fight, flight, or freeze response, and their instinct is telling them to run for their life. So, and the leaning in partner wants to chase after them. So the first thing we have to do is get the leaning in partner to stop the chase, to settle down and start focusing on their own well-being and self-improvement. And then we talk to the decider to see if they need space or, what's going on with them. Typically, a decider will tell you that if they don't get away from the leaning in partner, they're going to become suicidal or some sort of disastrous thing. That's how crazy it feels. I'm doing a training for therapists right now on how to teach them how to do this, so there'll be more people doing this. And I said that when I was in my own marriage crisis, I was the decider. And when my spouse was in the house, I felt like the house was on fire. And if I didn't get out, I was going to burn to death. That is the extreme feelings of I've got to get away with you. So when your leaning in partner says, I'm not moving out, or you move out, and you start all that kind of stuff, then the decider may pull the divorce plug on you very quickly because they feel such an urgent need to get away. And if you won't give them the space, they'll do drastic things that we don't want them to. We don't want deciders to make major life decisions when their nervous system is kicked up.
Yeah. And I would say ours is, well, we have these layers of this anxious avoidant attachment, right? Because I was the one that years pursued, we need help. We need help. Something is wrong, right? Oh, we're fine, until I uncovered that there's years of affairs because he had already checked out. So he was already done, but he wouldn't do the work to say he was done. And he wouldn't do the work to like say he wanted the divorce. So we ended up being separated for 2 years. But in that first year, find out about the affair. He's saying, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And we just want different things, but never moved it forward to file. So in that time, now I become the pursuer. I become so desperately leaning in to own my mistakes and to own what I did wrong and to own how I didn't give him the space. And every time I pursued, he backed further out. Like I'd lean a little bit out. I'd have a business trip or I'd be gone for a bit. And he'd all of a sudden, you'd see a glimmer of being kind again or leaning in, he'd be like, you look really nice today. And my leaning inside would go, okay, 100 miles per hour in the direction of getting back together. And every time I did that, spiral, chaos, dumpster fire, out he pulls again. And so we did that dance for years until it took me until year 2 to figure out the next key takeaway, which I needed to start investing in myself. So all the energy that I was putting into trying to find an answer to fix what was quote unquote wrong with him, I needed to take all that energy and put it into fixing myself, my self-worth, my self-love, my confidence in who I was and how I wanted to be in partnership, and creating really healthy boundaries of like, this is how I deserve to be treated and how I treat other people. And if you can't do it, then we're not here anymore and this is over. So another really key piece was shifting into self-care. And it's when everyone's like, take a bath. And I was like, if anybody else tells me to take a bath, I'm going to scream. No more baths, no more like go for a walk, no more enjoy your solo time. But I had a lot of coaches, books saying, oh, you've got to figure out what you want. You've got to figure out how you are. And that's a really hard place to be when you're so desperate as the leaning in partner to do anything to save the marriage.
I think it helps to tell the leaning in partners that every leaning in partner feels this kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what we're fighting against is our instinct. This is the absolute base part of their brain that's responding to this crisis. So it's not the part of their brain where they have cognitive abilities. Your instinct is telling you that there's a threat, and the threat is to your marriage, your life, your future. And so your brain, feeling that threat, is telling you to go save yourself. And the way you save yourself is by saving your marriage. But I'm telling them that we have to fight against our instinct here and get you back into the frontal part of your brain where you have self-control and you have rational processing and you can outsmart your instinct here and go against that thing and possibly save your marriage. There's finesse here. There is, I call it relationship physics, what you just described, which is the more in a marriage crisis you chase the decider, the farther outside the circle they go. That really helps every leaning in partner I work with to back off. But they're like gnawing on a rope. It's so painful for them to stop the chase. But they see, like you did, when they stop the chase, the other person stops running.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, exhausted from overthinking, and stuck in uncertainty, this message is for you. You don't have to keep feeling that way. Inside the club, you'll find a safe space to rediscover who you are, clarify what you want, and determine how you want to move forward. Surrounded by women who truly understand and guided by expert support, you are not alone on this journey. Join us at thecrazyexwivesclub.com/the club. It's time to reclaim your life. Yeah, because you're pushing so hard to get an answer, and they need to breathe too. It's really hard for all you listeners out there. Your anxious attachment, your codependent. Good, I'm so guilty of both of those. I was so unhealthy codependent. So when this crisis happens, and my one support system removes himself, my whole nervous system, like even right now, I can feel how agitated it felt. I just wanted to crawl out of my skin. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't watch TV. I could sleep. Like it was the only way to shut those feelings off because my nervous system was so haywire. And the one person I wanted to reach for to regulate with had removed himself. And I didn't have the skills to learn how to regulate my own system. So there was one other quote. I mean, I wrote down a bunch of quotes from your book, but calming your nervous system will be one of the hardest things you have ever done in this state, but it's required to be able to move on. It's that first big hurdle, you guys. Your physical body is tripping out. It's sending off all the emergency alarms. Your mind is in that reptilian brain, just trying to survive. You have to learn to regulate that system back down so that you can get to the logical thinking, reflecting, pondering side to decide whether or not this is something that still fits what you're looking for.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And it is the hardest thing that a leaning in partner may ever do. And sometimes it takes many months to get people to settle down and calm down. And I have something that I call managed separation that I help couples with because I don't like couples separating on their own without rules, reasons, and a timeline. I think there should be a purpose to it. If you're hoping to save your marriage, you got to both be in therapy while you're separated. Yeah. We've got to be having conversations with someone like me to help sort through your marriage and the patterns and all that kind of stuff and see if we can't change perceptions and create possibilities and things like that. And there's got to be a timeline. We don't want couples to end up in separation limbo. But that's why I created this thing called marriage crisis management, where like I'm your consultant, man, but I am a therapist and I'm overseeing it and making sure and holding you accountable to not blowing it.
Yeah.
And it's just so important. And so if the leaning in partner just cannot stop themselves, they just got to reach out to the decider.
That was me.
Then we might have to do one of these managed separations because of the decider's desperate need for a break. If we have to, if the only way we can get them that break, but otherwise they're going to divorce you.
Yeah.
It's like, so they're going to divorce you if you keep doing this. So let's give them a break where y'all have no contact for a period of time.
Yeah.
And see if we can't get both of y'all balanced in a reasonable amount of time and get you settled down.
And that was one of the other big pieces that I loved about your body of work, because having a separation agreement plan, like an actual laid out, like a contract, you guys, that you are signing, because I'm a big proponent in separation can do wonders when it's done correctly. For us, what was happening is he did move out while I was out at a concert, came home. Stuff was gone, didn't know he was moving out. Like, again, everything was avoidant of any conversation of dealing with anything. But he had moved out, swore he wasn't still talking to the other woman. She still was there in the picture for the entire 2 years. Even when he said he was like, I wanted work on this, and came home for 3 months, didn't move in, but like, hey, I'm back in the marriage. She was still there. I got to travel for work. And every time I traveled for work, we couldn't talk regularly. We didn't see each other regularly, and everything calmed down. Like all of a sudden, oh, I can breathe again. I can focus on me. I can't do anything about that marriage crisis right now. I'm traveling. I was in Japan. I was in Taipei. I was like, beautiful opportunities. Gave us space. So I do think that separations can work wonders. We didn't have an agreement. He continued to lie through it. He continued to see her. He did everything wrong. He didn't work on himself, didn't look at any of the problems, but I did. So in those 2 years, I kept doing therapy. I kept figuring out, what do I want in a partner? Who do I want to be in a partner? What's important to me? Now, ours lasted 2 years, which is ridiculously long. And I love the fact that yours also has some realistic timelines on it. Can they be changed? For sure. But you don't want to sit in this unknown for longer than you have to because, again, your nervous system is still freaking out. It's still trying to figure out how to live.
It's a terribly freaky time. So yes, one of my catchphrases is "Don't do this alone." Is I really mean, I know therapy is expensive, but by golly, this is the one time in your life where you really need professional oversight and help to see you through this and to coach you and tell you how this is going to go down. And my book will tell you, like, if you do A, then B is going to happen. If you do C, D is going to happen. I've had so much experience with this dynamic now. I know that one big mistake is going to set us back like for weeks or months. So like it's the craziest situation or dynamic. But again, if I can talk people down from their worst impulses, and that's what you need. And the other thing is those of you that are miserable in your marriage and contemplating being a crazy ex, right? Is the healthier you are as an adult, ability to be alone, ability to be mentally stable and emotionally support yourself, where you're not dependent on other people to feel good and to feel complete. The more whole you are as a person, the more easier you will find to be able to follow the difficult directions I'm giving you in the book. It's the people who were already pretty unstable, who couldn't be alone, who don't have great self esteem, who don't know how to take care of themselves when no one else is available. Those are the ones that are going to sink. And so the strong ones, this is why, like, I just tell people, do this. Just do what, no matter what, just get solid yourself, because you may have a marriage crisis. You may have a death of a close loved one, or a loss of a career, or loss of your health, or something. But the more solid you are with yourself, the more you'll be resilient in these situations that inevitably come up in our lives. And resilience is the thing, like, that's the holy grail to a therapist. Is we looked at our clients to see how resilient they are. And the people that don't handle marriage crisis well, that just truly become major basket cases. And believe me, I've had my basket case days during separation and marriage crisis. And I'm not saying that means you're crazy. I am saying if you do have your basket case phase, it should be brief. And you should get the hell up pretty quickly and go back and resume your getting solid as a human being program.
Yeah. And I was very much a basket case. And I think the thing that is misleading about it is I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was very confident in my job. I was always the one leading the way. I had no problem being that person that's having the outgoing conversation, showing up places. But there was some deep childhood wounds that got triggered that were tied around stories I had created, right? Getting married meant somebody finally picked you. And as a small child, I was like, well, why am I always alone? Who's ever going to pick me? Why is this here? And so on the outside, you'd be like, well, you weren't a basket case. Why didn't you just say, you're cheating, that's not okay, and move on? Why did I struggle so long? Because sometimes these little things from our childhood rear their ugly heads and grow with momentum over time. And so there was literally two pieces, that whole like self-love, self-worthiness. Do I know who I am? And am I willing to walk away if the room no longer respects or loves who I am? The answer was no back in the day. I was so desperate to be chosen, so desperate to have a place that I called home. And that's what the work brought me was, oh, I'm going to be okay no matter where it's at. But you can appear very strong and still be a little troubled on the inside.
So I work with high functioning people like you. You are smart, you're very successful in your careers, you got it going on, but you all are imbeciles in your interpersonal relationships. And I'm sorry, it is like a different world, because I have CEOs of companies who act like 5-year-olds in their marriage, or 15-year-olds or 12-year-olds. And it's just crazy that we turn into like a different being in our interpersonal relationships. But to me, that's where the tire meets the pavement, so to speak, because that is where all your wounds from your past are going to show up, not in the workplace. But it is fascinating that you can be the bomb in the workplace and full of self confidence and have no spine whatsoever and be a jellyfish in your marriage. Now, speaking to what you just said about your stance back then, I tell women it's time for us to friggin' look at men and say, what have you guys got that we want instead of the other way around? When I first started dating back in my 20s, I used to think, okay, so who does he want me to be? And I would become a chameleon and I would try to mold myself into who I thought he wanted me to be. I mean, I was an amoeba. It's just completely ridiculous. And that's how I set myself up for my first marital failures. And so it's until you become yourself, become your authentic self, get to know yourself and know what you are willing to tolerate and what you are not. You have your own kind of strong belief and value system. Then when those men come around, you're not going to be in that needy state of mind. You're going to say, wait a minute. So I'm not going to sell myself on you. I want you to sell yourself to me. And I really wish women understood their complete power. Men tell me this all the time in sessions. They say, I could be hanging out with my beer drinking boyfriends over in Joe Blow's garage down the street, but I want to be with a woman because no one makes me feel like a woman does. It makes me high just to be in the female presence of someone that I care about. And so we've got this thing that they love and cannot live without. Let's make them earn it.
Yeah. That was a huge lesson. Do they deserve a seat at my table? Do they?
Yeah.
And I had done the same thing. Can I find my happiness in what they love? And so, great. In college, I was in a car club and I loved Volkswagens and I worked on engines and painted cars. Well, I still don't do any of it. Okay. And then I'd have this group of friends. And then we were like in the band and the punk rock and the touring. Okay. But I don't play a lot of instruments anymore. And so it's like you can try all of these things out, but each time you're picking up, like, who am I and what do I really love? And it is a self journey of learning not to mold yourself into who you think they want. That is 100% a recipe for disaster because they fall in love with you and your passions and your interests. And when we take those away and say, oh, I need to be only invested in the relationship or only do exactly as I think that they want, that's when all of a sudden they're like, well, I just don't love her anymore. So when you take that back, when you do the self-care, when you find your own powers and passions again, it's when they start going, wait, there's that spark. There's that spark that I loved in her in the beginning. And I think that for those of you guys on the journey, it's one of the most beautiful gifts, but oh, does it again sucks when you're in it. Like me learning how to actually be okay with walking away. Hey, this is not the right fit. Do I trust myself that I'm going to leave? Even if I love this person, do I trust myself this is not the right fit? And now it's, you find somebody, I'll laugh at my partner, he does not love the crystals and the moon rituals and the manifesting woo woo, blah, 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 blah. Okay. My ex husband didn't like it either. But my ex husband used to ridicule me for it and put me down for it. And my current one's like, look, that's not my jam, but you do you. And he also kind of likes it and he kind of laughs about it. And so the weirder I get in the stuff that I find really exciting, the more he leans in, right? The more he's like, oh, that's just Erica being crazy. That's my partner, right? She's out there doing, make him drink moon water after a full moon. I've gotten to do it once, but it's that piece, you guys. Be you, find you, use this separation or divorce time to figure out who you are. Who do you want to be? What's important to you and what's important in a partnership.
The thing I learned too to love about finding myself and maintaining that boundary of being true to myself and not settling was that it was a great weeder of people. It weeded people out that I didn't need to be with. And some people say to me, oh, I went on a date and she didn't want to go out with me again. I'm like, say thank you. How wonderful. that she saved you any trouble. Y'all aren't a match. You can be a wonderful person. She can be a wonderful person. It doesn't mean you're defective. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you're not desirable. It just means that that key did not fit the lock of your door. Yeah. And that's all it means. And then go try another key.
And be grateful. Yeah.
Yes. And also, I want to tell them that I don't think women, and especially women, date enough people when they're single. I think they date 2 or 3 people and they settle on one, and that's not a big enough sample size. I think women should go out and try all sorts of flavors of men and see the different varieties and types that are out there, the different personalities and belief systems. And then you can get to know yourself and hone in on what's right for you.
Yeah.
So that's why women is be discerning, girls.
Be discerning. What's meant for you will always find its way. There's nothing that you have to like jump on it right now and scoop it up today. You get to have time. The right things come around at the right time. Well, I want to thank you, Becky, for chatting with us today. You guys, the link for Dr. Becky's Instagram page, her website, all the details, as well as the link to get your own copy of I Think I Want Out is down there in the show notes. Remember, it's about having the right support system, the right access to information when you need it. So you can read more about Dr. Becky at thecrazyexwivesclub.com/episodes to read more about this chat we had, as well as all of the show notes to get her links. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for publishing this amazing book. You are definitely about to change the way everyone is moving through their separation.
I sure hope so. Thank you so much, Erica. And everybody also check out my blog on the Medium platform.
Beautiful. I'll make sure that link is down in the show notes so you guys can check it out. Until next week, you guys give yourself grace. Go drop this book in your Amazon cart, no matter what process or phase of divorce you're in, and leave us a note to let us know what you loved. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.